Good evening to everyone and welcome to the MEDIMAGZA Live. The conversation, of course, GBV. So tonight marks the official launch of our 2026 gender-based violence campaign. And the hashtag that we're using for the year is hashtag claim your status. So if you do want to get into the conversation, use that as the hashtag. But once again, this is not just a conversation, is it? This is not a once-off awareness moment either. This is a 12-month national editorial commitment that MEDIMAGZA is putting out. So we are really raising that alarm. Like I said earlier, recently at the G20 summit, our president once again acknowledged GBV as a national crisis in South Africa. But this crisis has been unfolding in homes, communities, hospitals, and courtrooms for years. At MEDIMAGZA, we said we cannot let another day pass without raising our voices. As a healthcare lifestyle publication, we believe health extends beyond clinics and operating theatres. Health includes dignity, health includes justice, and of course, above all else, health includes safety. So that's one of the topics we're discussing. That is why our partnership with Dr. Yassine Bismillah that we have here today. Thank you so much for joining us. We are launching a structured, evidence-based, year-long GBV feature series for the year. So over the next 12 months, MEDIMAGZA will publish monthly GBV-focused features amplifying survivors and professional voices, of course, align with a national awareness moment to drive structured practical conversation. So once again, welcome to the show, Dr. Bismillah.
Thank you so much. It's an honor to be here, and it's a topic that is extremely close to my soul, close to my heart, and I'm extremely passionate about this.
If anyone does not know, Dr. Bismillah is a forensic pathologist, so we thought who better to align with the campaign in that type of disciplinary. So, from your frontline experience, Doc, what is the reality of GBV in South Africa today?
You know, it's a very good question. It's one thing to read GBV, interpersonal violence, femicides on a headline. It's another thing to see it in person on my mortuary table every day. The word femicide is a female homicide, so a female that has been unalived intentionally. Majority of the cases are by men in homes where they felt safe under interpersonal violence. So we get to see the end point of this violence. And I think firsthand, seeing it from the end point and not from the clinical point is extremely eye-opening. It is extremely distressing. It is about time that we have awareness campaigns, that we have declared it a national disaster. And it's the conversation now that needs to happen.
Yeah, no, that's so important. Hey, what does the data though? Tell us about femicide rates.
So I did a master's in the femicide rate in my area, and I compared that to the national rates and the international rates. South Africa stably over the past 10 to 15 years have been around 5 times the global rate of femicide. It is so high that women die here more than in war-stricken countries. That is extremely alarming. And over 2024 to 2025, that jumped to 6 times the global rate. So that went extremely high, and that's what sparked this Change for Women and this national disaster awareness. So data is extremely important because when we look at trends, we can look at a feedback system on how we can intervene. Trends do not lie. It is objective. It is things that we can see A, B, C, D, E, F, G led to this woman lying on my table. So we now have places we can intervene.
That is beautiful. And I mean, I think the age-old saying data never lies. So that's a great starting point
No,
to go from.
no.
Are there patterns emerging that the public may not fully understand?
Yes. So femicides are not random. They are deliberate. They are specific. They occur in certain patterns that we can see. The first one, I think, is that people suspect or interpret GBV to be violence, abuse, assault, and it's everything but. I think assault is the in a long story. A lot of things happen before that, and then there are physical assaults,
Mm.
and then the end point of physical assaults end in femicides. Secondly, it's interpersonal. So it is somebody you know. It is a partner. It is a ex-partner. It is somebody who lives in the house. It is somebody that you trust. So there is a safety warp that people, especially our women, uh, they don't feel safe. They don't feel safe. What is safety? So this is happening under our nose in our homes.
Mm.
And thirdly, I think it's brought to light a pattern of shame, a pattern of discrimination, a pattern of misogyny. We are unconsciously biased towards a vulnerable population. So we're seeing these patterns emerge now, and patterns do not lie. Data does not lie, as you said.
That's quite alarming. And something else I've noticed as a nation, I mean, we don't always like taking accountability, but where are we failing at a systemic level?
Sure. So, there's a lot of issues. There's a lot of issues, and I think I witnessed it working in a crisis center. The main issue for me, I think, is that we are healthcare workers. All right. Then you have a legal system which is working parallel to us, where these cases go to court, assaults are documented medico legally. And then on the other side, you have the police. So these are people who are supposed
Mm.
to protect us and who are supposed to prosecute on our behalf, or are mandated to look after domestic violence. So we have these three aspects which are happening at the same time. We are placed in the middle. We are medical legal, and we have justice that we bring on the one side. We also have a legal obligation in what we are doing on the other side. It is very difficult. There are not many points where they interlink. So, for example, when I'm doing a medical examination, how can I who can I refer this patient to in this moment? What is my legal understanding? What is my so there are not enough multidisciplinary points in the system of the patient. I think is one of the big gaps that we are facing
Mm.
at the moment. Even now, on my autopsy table, every femicide that comes, I make sure the police is there. I make sure they personally come with a rape kit for this case. So I know that when this thing goes to court, it has been done by a disciplinary team, and that is not always possible in our clinics and in our hospitals.
No, well said. And I really, really believe there is a systemic fail in our country. So we need to address that. Once again, if you've just joined the live, this is Medimax ZA's live campaign for GBV hashtag claim your status. We're joined today by forensic pathologist and our co-partner for the Dr. Yassine Bismillah. Let's move on though to the human and psychological impact of it all. What long-term psychological impact does GBV have on survivors?
Sure. So, survivors, as I've said, have a warped reality of feeling safe. So this
Mm.
almost instinctively, it's a chronic lung disease. It's something that does not show up as a classic assault, does not show up as opening up in a consultation, does not show up as, oh, that's what you're trying to say. No, no, no. So the effects are extremely subtle. They can present with many mental health issues. So I've seen PTSD being the most common one. There's a trauma response to almost sometimes trying to protect themselves, trying to protect their family, trying to protect their integrity as a human being in an abusive household. Remember, this person leaves their house, leaves the sanctity of abuse, violence, toxicity, now is out in the wild, is now in your offices, is now doing things, has a warped reality of what is safe, what is not.
Yeah.
So that's very important to be aware of the mental health issues that are happening. I've seen depression. They can present with somatic issues, so they come in with non-specific chronic ailments that should give you a something is up, something is wrong. Please inquire about your personal life. Please inquire about your intimate life. It could be subtle as repeated pregnancies. It can be subtle as repeated STIs. It can be subtle as HIV statuses that are not a concern. It might be an issue of affect. So the way the patient presents themselves, your medical eye now has to kick in, your forensic eye has to kick in. And
Mm.
I think many medical or healthcare workers and victims understand this aspect when you know when something is trying to be said and you just can't put the dots together. That is
Yeah.
the chronic long-term feel, if that makes sense.
Mm. It almost feels instinctual, but you obviously can't say more than you can without proper evidence as well. Let's talk
100%.
about the impact on the children exposed to the violence.
Yeah, sure. I think it's something we don't speak about enough. It's something we sometimes
Mm.
don't see enough. It's something that you have to understand that um, traumatic development, um, a child that has witnessed assault understands conflict in a violent way. So if you and I
Yeah.
have an argument and I have seen my parents fight, the only physically fight, the only way I know how to argue with you is to use physical force. So that traumatic development is important in understanding the cycle of trauma. So or physical violence. So, as a child in a violent household, if you look at the risk factors for parents of child abuse, for example, one of the major risk factors are parents who have been assaulted. So you can see that generational behavioral pattern come up. Also
Yeah.
in children where violence is normalized. So it could be a child that comes in with a repeated history from school that hitting children, violent behavior. You will look into the household and you will see exposure or history to
Yeah.
physical violence, and it tends to lean more on the male child spectrum as well, which again keeps with our international trends of male misogyny being a huge risk factor in gender-based violence.
It's incredible when you actually peel back the curtain and you find the clinical pattern that's been going on for years. Which brings me to the next question. Why do so many victims struggle to report abuse?
It's something you ask very casually, and I wish I could answer you casually. I wish it was a casual feeling in my soul, but it's not casual, right? The main thing I've seen, and this has come from my time in clinical medicine, where they like, why did you stay? Why didn't you leave? Why are you staying in a toxic relationship? And this stems back to my you need to understand the victim's trauma response in a traumatic relationship. Is financial abuse, there is isolation, there is unemployment, there is children involved. It is we live in societies that are very shameful, societies that are judgmental, medical healthcare workers that are judgmental, police officers that are judgmental. It is such a taboo, sensitive, cultural issue as well. Um, don't ever say, or I hear this a lot, why did you stay? Why did you say? And then another one is, and I'm going to target our, not, I'm going to focus on our men a bit. When um, I've heard it was just a slap, or it was just an outrage, or it was just a once-off thing.
Yeah.
Violence is never acceptable, ever, against a female
Mm.
presenting gender, ever. Ever, 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 ever.
I love that. And legit, it's such a the question when they ask, why are you staying? And it goes deeper than just an answer, a casual answer for that matter. It's really a deep one. What misconceptions have frustrated you the most?
Well, that one I think is is the biggest one. There's also a misconception that victims own being a victim. If you, they almost claim their status as a victim. And I think this campaign is, we aim to reverse that thinking and that overall mentality. When a victim comes to your office, never judge them, make it a safe space, always believe them. I think that is the most important thing. I have had assaults where I'm like, or are you trying to get custody of your child and making this up? Things not, that is not for you to decide ever. So one
Yeah.
of the misconceptions are that sometimes victims own being victims. And that should never be a mental conception. I think it's part of the problem why we have 6 times the global rate.
Yeah, yeah. Something that I also heard the other day, I was at a practice and I got talking to one of the GPs, and we got into talking about why do warning signs often go by so unnoticed?
Yeah, it's because the warning signs are not obvious. They are things that we were not taught in medical school, the things we are not taught in allied health sciences. It's things that we are not taught in the cultural societies that we come from. And I say that because even as men in societies, we're not taught that. As women, sometimes as well, we are taught to, or are taught to play a certain role and to be a certain role. So red flags are never in your face. They are always
Yeah.
very subtle. Um, it is very important to, so in my study of femicides, the majority of cases were young females aged 18 to 35. They were often extremely isolated with mental health issues accumulatively. There was some history of interpersonal violence in the snapshot of what brought that patient, that body to me before that. You have to understand the vulnerable woman that walks into your office or comes into your environment. That automatically is a red flag. Remember what a national disaster is. This is the definition of state, is when something is occurring in excess that a local community or a local province cannot handle. Hence, it has been escalated to a national level where national resources are now being mobilized to sort out this issue. So for example,
Mm,
HIV is one. So this is, for example, on that scale now. So it is not something subtle. I'm going to assume now every female that is dead in my mortuary is a femicide until proven otherwise. And I
mm,
think I think healthcare needs to work on that level. It is such a huge
yeah.
impact. It's a huge impact on a tiny aspect of healthcare. One, but it is so important that must go through your head every single time you see a female.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I feel like I've always stood by the fact that education is power. And I think education needs to come from all angles, not just the patient, but from the
100%.
healthcare professional as well. Because with the medical sector, it's ever evolving. So that comes with knowledge as well. So I think it's a very
200%.
important subject to always update oneself on. Moving from human and psychological aspects, let's move on to
200%.
accountability and action
And it's
now.
very difficult.
What
Eh? You
does
have to
the
step out.
hashtag, yeah,
You have to
yeah.
be
What
objective. Yeah.
what does the hashtag claim your status campaign mean to you personally?
So, I was discussing this with you when we came up with the concept, and I think it was the overall feel, especially after the Women for Change campaign, after the G20 summit national disaster
Yeah.
announcement. Uh, we had this feeling of hopelessness. I think as a healthcare worker, seeing those 15 bodies every day, finally something is on the news that is not a celebrity, that's not a once-off dramatic media fueled case. This is the first time now the entire world is aware of it. We got 1 million signatures. We got 2 billion international views for that campaign spotlighted in South Africa. So we now have the awareness, we now have the understanding. Um, so that's extremely important.
No, I really think it, when we did meet the first time as well, and we both start talking about the importance and the prevalence of this in a community that sometimes shuns this or
Yes,
casts,
yes,
almost, why would you speak up? It's almost like, don't talk about
100%.
it. If you don't
Where
talk about it,
have
it'll
the
go away.
status of our woman gone to? And it's so odd. Now, as we move on, and I think I said this earlier on, I now, as a healthcare worker, am claiming my status in empowering myself and empowering
Love
my
it.
role in this national disaster. Health is part of the national disaster plan. It's almost targeted at us. It's targeted
Yeah,
towards us. We are sometimes the first link in the chain. So
yeah.
I, as a partner, as a brother, as a healthcare worker, as a professional, as a human being on a human rights scale, I'm claiming my status to make a difference to every victim out there, not just female presenting, not just gender discriminated, any victim of interpersonal violence. You can also claim back a status, even if it is 1% of the disaster of a relationship and situation that you are in. Know that we are aware of it, know that we are speaking of it, know that we care, and we are dedicated to evidence based facts, and the work we do directly, and I'm going to say this with the utmost confidence, will directly affect the amount of bodies we see every day.
Yeah, definitely. I think we owe it to ourselves as a country to break that stigma completely. What role would you say men, especially, need to play, also to change that narrative?
Yeah, yeah. Sure. So I said I felt targeted a lot in my
Yeah,
work that I did for good reason. Men are not just the problem, we are essential to the solution. It's almost like when I did a run for breast cancer. Well, I wasn't allowed to do the run because it was targeted for women with breast cancer and for women. By excluding men from the narrative, we sometimes isolate this understanding. I want every man to be the king for one queen in their life, be it a mother, be it a sister,
love
be
that.
it a partner. One king, just be one king. That will change your entire perspective. Your entire perspective. So remember, men, we are not targeted. It's not targeted at us. We are essential to the solution. We're essential to it, and I
Yeah.
know it. I, I, I feel the shift. I feel the shift. This movement was so centered towards victims that there wasn't even space for men to have a voice. Um,
Yeah.
uh, but there's space now to be part of the solution. And throughout the year, we are going to slowly desensitize and destigmatize this.
Yeah, no, definitely. I can tell you though, from the first article that went out in February now for the GBV campaign, it was so powerful. A lot of the readers took up and sat up and took notice of the actual end result of how it could end up, unfortunately, if it goes by unnoticed for so long. Which kind of brings me to the next question. If somebody suspects abuse, what is the correct course of action that they need to take?
Sure. So it's so difficult. There's so many different things that stop a person from seeking help. You know, um, we are, as I said, we live in societies, in communities where it is frowned upon, isolated. I think I said this in the first one, and I will say it again. You have a voice. Just tell one person. Just tell one
Mm.
person. And I think the first step, we are very privileged to be, you and I, to be in societies that allow us to express, allow us to have open conversations, allow us. There are many, many areas in SA where women, children, vulnerable people have nothing. They have no resources. They don't have the luxury to even go out to a hospital or a clinic. But what I
Yeah.
can tell you is every human being forms part of a community. Every community
Mm.
has some sort of a leader or a structure. Go to your local church leader, go to your local community leader, be involved in something in the community that involves women, right? In my small town, we had a Muslim women's cultural society. I knew we understood so many issues that our women were going through in our community through women speaking to each other in a forum. So even if you're on a homeowners association form, financial, whatever forum you are a part of, there's a woman there who you somehow aspire to or look up to or have some kind of moral leadership. Be a part of that community. I think that's the first step, is to be involved with other women doing something. You will hear a story from somewhere. Vickers, by the way, I love your support. This is the kind of men we need, with all your comments.
No, definitely. I think joining up with, women in different organizations, it almost allows you to want to open up and
Yeah,
speak about these
yeah,
situations, especially if you suspect someone's being abused. you know Take it up to a community leader, someone that can advise you, point you in the right direction, or even
100%.
take it upon themselves to gently address the situation with the person in question. Speaking of policies, okay,
Yeah.
something that I know South Africans are very passionate about
Yes.
wanting to
Yeah.
change, yet we've got very little power sometimes. If you could change a policy, one policy, what would that be?
There's so many. It's it's important to note that um, we don't lack laws. Our laws are excellent. They are comprehensive. There are laws against domestic violence specifically. That's a whole act. Every aspect of violence is integrated into our legal system under multiple acts.
Yeah,
Almost every single act, not just healthcare acts. What we lack is continuity. It's the snapshots of assault that we let
mm,
go into the system. So, classic examples is when I see femicide cases with a history of assault from an intimate partner. That automatically, the laws are there. The laws
yeah,
are there. What I want to change is the integration points. We cannot let a suspected or a confirmed assault victim get lost into the system. There needs to be increased surveillance on that woman specifically. With this
yeah,
national disaster, what is being mobilized, what stakeholders are available. When we speak for and about and protect that one woman, it's one woman
yeah,
less on my autopsy table. So there's no specific law, but I think it is that integration moment. Do I phone the police or
yeah,
not? Do I consult a social worker or not? Do I act or not? Act, act. We are by healthcare. We are protected by the law to err on the more protective side. So we will not get into trouble by falsely accusing someone. But are we looking out
yeah.
for it? Yes. Could we potentially be saving a life? Yes, 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 yes.
One of the great numbers for GBV Command Centre is 0800 428 428, and there you can definitely get some help. Of course, the South African Police Service Emergency also has a line there with 10 111 if you know of someone being abused, or yourself if you need help.
Yeah.
There are crisis lines, there are support groups, and we
Anonymized
should
as
definitely take
well.
advantage of these. Yeah,
Anonymized. I've
yeah.
phoned a
No,
few
definitely.
myself as well. They're active, especially the national GBV line. So make we see they are giving the numbers in the comments as well. It's easier said than done. There's a
Thank
huge
you, Jason.
stigma around it,
Yeah,
huge stigma around it. But again, when you hear it, when you have that suspicion in your mind, please report
yeah,
it. You are saving a life. We must not forget it's a
yeah,
national emergency. We must not forget that.
absolutely. How do you think silence, though, perpetuates the cycle of this?
Sure. Oh, silence, and I say this again and again, silence protects the perpetrator almost every
Yeah.
single time. Sure, when we see a case on our table and again, the family is silent, we're hearing now the aftermath. We're hearing in the aftermath, oh, but this happened at one time. Oh, but this happened the other time. Again, we live in societies that are extremely shameful. It is extremely taboo. It's things we don't speak about. It's things that make us feel very uncomfortable. I work with death every day. Just speaking about death itself is such a stigma. Imagine now a female homicide. You can imagine the family implications, the many implications. Silence protects the perpetrator but does not protect the family.
Yeah.
We are going to have a cycle again and again. It takes one
Yeah.
person to speak out to save one life. So easier said than done. And again, along the year, we will hopefully be speaking out more in a non-targeting
Yeah.
way, in a more motivational way, in a more
Yeah.
creating a safe space where we can have these discussions. Education is power, as
Yeah.
you said, and education in our age is not in a book. It's not on the radio. It's not on the headlines. It is peers speaking to peers. It is open conversations where we can join in.
No, absolutely. And I think one of the what can I say, the hashtag claim your status. It's not to claim your status as a victim anymore. It's time to claim your status as a survivor, someone that spoke up, that stood up for yourself, stood up for a loved one, that broke the clinical cycle that's been going on for years. Let's go to the audience though. Back to Vickers. I see you said something. Difficulty is ultimately the person must make the final decision. Medical professionals, social workers, police can help and support, but ultimately the person should stand up. But not, it's not so easy. I completely agree with that.
100%. I think you nailed it on the spot right there. Healthcare workers can only do so much. Um, my advice to that, as healthcare workers, we are trained. We are trained. We can sense when something is not right. Firstly, make a note of it. In your clinical notes, somewhere, put query mental health, query abuse. Send the patient home. Send the patient home. Let them come to you again when they are ready. Secondly, offer resources. Do not force them. We don't know what their situation is. We cannot force people to speak out, but offer subtle resources. Thirdly, find smart ways to get the patient to open up. So, for example, when I used to suspect something insidious happening, for example, intimate partner or husband or ex is sitting in the room, refuses to leave, goes with
Mhm.
alleged victim to x-rays, goes with alleged victims. So I almost create an environment. For example, I test for HIV and will send the patient to get pre-HIV testing counseling and let that counselor know, please find out something more about the household's situation. So find smart ways to create a safe environment for your patient and then target intervention in that direction. Again, just one patient. If you can do that, you can make a difference. So let's create a safer environment, understand what is happening in the community, encourage your patient to come back. Encourage your patient to come back.
Yeah.
I once had a woman who claimed she's been pregnant every time she came to the hospital, but she didn't want to get pregnant. I left it. Eventually, it came out that she was forced to be pregnant by her husband and she was not getting pregnant. And that was the waiting, aware of it in my notes, came again, aware of it in my notes, seen by another
Yeah.
doctor in my notes. And note take. We are trained to do that.
Yeah. I love what Jason says. It's more or less what you've been saying now. He says, yes, medical professionals can pick it up and should be forthright in bringing it to life and referring it the
Yeah.
best way they can.
Yes. I completely agree. I completely agree. Easier said than done. Just that one patient. Think of that one patient.
Absolutely. I'm just going through the chats to see if there's anything else. Um, Lynette Van Wyk says, please do more of these. We will definitely be doing more of these as the year continues.
Yes. I
And
think,
we've got one.
yeah,
Um, no, that wasn't really one. Yeah, so I think that's where we can leave it for today.
yes.
I'm so glad that we had the opportunity to start this off. In
Yes. And I'm
wrapping
very
up though,
thankful
tonight's
for people who are willing to speak out, you know. It does take a lot. I think we understand that we can create all the platforms
absolutely,
and all the space, but we need I think when we get feedback and we get people to speak out, that's where the safe space creates. Everyone can resonate. The one thing we all have in common with all of this is our humanity. We can relate to
yeah,
each other on a story of some sort, a comment of some sort. Social media showed this cause tremendously when one person or one organization had the balls to do something and
yeah. It's
snowballed.
Yeah, it's definitely about coming together as a collective, as a community, as a country.
100%.
So tonight is, of course, the beginning and not the end. Hashtag claim your status is a call to accountability, a call to courage, a call to community professionals and individuals to refuse silence. That's the biggest takeaway. Like
100%.
I said earlier, for the next 12 months, MEDIMAG ZA will amplify evidence-based insights, survivor voices, and practical solutions. We invite healthcare professionals, organizations, and sponsors to stand up with us in this mission. This is not a performance of awareness. This is definitely a structured advocacy. Dr. Bismillah, of course, thank you so much for your leadership and
Thank
for
you for
joining
this
us
platform.
tonight.
I really appreciate it.
And of course, to everyone watching and that's joined in, claim your status, stand for dignity, stand for justice.